talked about a game plan to beat him, lad. I don't know how to beat him. No one like goes for his weaknesses when he fights out. Everyone just tries to have a boxing match with him. I'm not going to come out and have a boxing match with him. I'm going to beat him with my all-round MMA game. And as I said, no, I'd beat him, lad. And I reckon I'd proper hate him and just shut everyone up even more like I love to do.
¿Sabes quién es Paddy Pimblett ahora mismo? ¿Y por qué se tendría que merecer ahora mismo pelear conmigo? La verdad que si pudiera yo elegir una pelea, pelearía con él porque cae fatal, la verdad.
Ilia Topuria has sent a clear warning to Charles Oliveira ahead of their highly anticipated title clash at UFC 317 on June 28th. The former featherweight champ has also responded to news about his fight with Paddy Pimblett. Well, Ilia Topuria is looking to finish the former lightweight champion Charles Oliveira, and he shared a message for him in a recent training video where Topuria is showcasing insane power and boxing skills. Fans believe Ilia Topuria was also looking a lot bigger in his latest training videos, admiring his deduction towards the lightweight division. There were a lot of talks about Ilia Topuria's size recently, but former MMA fighter Jorge Masvidal has ruled out such rumors. During a recent podcast, Jorge Masvidal spoke about Ilia Topuria's surprising size and strength, saying he's trained with him several times and always noticed how dense and powerful he felt. Masvidal recalled that even during light training, Topuria's strength stood out, comparing his power to that of a welterweight, despite fighting at featherweight. He said he used to tell people that Topuria hits like someone much heavier, and believes that if Ilia connects cleanly in a fight, he can seriously hurt his opponents.
I've trained with him like numerous times. You know when you go with somebody that's just like dense. It's not even that they're throwing hard, you're just working out, but you can feel like this dude, like his bones weigh extra 50 pounds than everybody else, you know? Like he's just a dense fucker. So since I was like training with him, wrestling with him, I'm like, man, this guy hits like 170 pounds and he's 145. I was telling people that back then. So it's just, you know, obviously in the fight, you don't know if he's gonna get to connect, but I always in the back of my mind, like, if this guy connects on these 45 pounders, bro, he's gonna change him up. Because I remember feeling his power when I'm at 170, 3-4 weeks away from the fight. I'm like, this guy could crack, like for real, he could crack, you know?
Meanwhile, Paddy Pimblett has already set his eyes to fight Ilia Topuria if he wins at UFC 317. Recently, while talking with Tom Aspinall, Paddy revealed that he and his team already have a game plan to beat Ilia Topuria if that fight happens. He said the UFC would likely book the matchup because it would be a big money fight. Pimblett explained that most fighters only try to box with Topuria, but he plans to use a full MMA approach to expose his weaknesses. He added that he's ready to prove people wrong and silence the critics.
That could be done like early next year. Paddy winning the title, easy. Well, maybe even this year.
If Ilia wins and says he wants to fight me, the UFC will make that fight.
I think so.
Because they know it's a money fight. As Ben was saying, that's like one of them fights where they were world press tour lad, like McGregor Aldo. I know I'd beat him. It's funny because I got laughed at for it, but I know I'd beat him.
Yeah, but that's what separates you from the other guys, from the other guys, isn't it?
We've already like talked about a game plan to beat him, lad. I don't know how to beat him. No one like goes for his weaknesses when he fights out. Everyone just tries to have a boxing match with him. I'm not going to come out and have a boxing match with him. I'm going to beat him with my all-round MMA game. And as I said, no, I'd beat him, lad. And I reckon I'd proper hate him and just shut everyone up even more like I love to do.
However, Ilia Topuria goes off on Paddy Pimblett and calls him a hypocrite. He recalled how Paddy once mocked him at a press conference for fighting on the prelims. Now, with 2 belts to his name, Topuria questioned Pimblett's relevance and said he didn't deserve a fight with him. Still, Topuria admitted he'd gladly take the fight because he believes Paddy fights poorly and it would be an easy win. He said it would be a real grudge match that fans would love, but warned that the outcome wouldn't be good for Paddy, just like it hasn't been for anyone else who faced him.
Bueno, está Paddy, por ejemplo.
Él es otro hipócrita. Yo te lo digo, yo recuerdo una vez compartimos una rueda de prensa y él me dijo una cosa que era, mira, yo estoy peleando en el main card, tú estás peleando en los preliminares, tipo una bobada así, y yo ahora me pregunto, yo tengo 2 cinturones, ¿tú dónde estás? ¿Sabes? ¿Quién es Paddy Pimblett ahora mismo y por qué se tendría que merecer ahora mismo pelear conmigo? La verdad que si pudiera yo elegir una pelea, pelearía con él porque cae fatal, la verdad. Y a mí me encantaría regalarle ese combate a todos los fanáticos porque desde hace mucho tiempo yo creo que dentro de la UFC no se ve una pelea de verdad. 2 personas que de verdad se quieren pegar. Y qué mejor que pegarse delante de todo el mundo y regalarles un espectáculo. Yo sé lo que va a pasar y no va a ser ningún bien para él.
¿Qué va a pasar?
Lo que ha pasado con todos.
On the other hand, Arman Tsarukyan acknowledged that Charles Oliveira is very dangerous, especially with his ability to choke opponents from almost any position. However, he pointed out that Oliveira lacks freestyle wrestling skills and likely won't be able to take someone like Ilia Topuria down easily. Tsarukyan explained that while Oliveira can counter with submissions if taken down, Topuria will likely rely on his superior boxing and avoid going to the ground. In his view, Topuria's striking and defensive wrestling give him a clear edge in the matchup.
Да, конечно, Оливейра очень опасный, с любой позиции может душить. Но просто перевести у Оливейра не такая вольная борьба. Допустим, моя работа, да, я люблю переводить. То есть я его перевожу, и он может контратаку какую-то сделать, там, душающую взять, как он взял меня там. То есть это возни не будет. Топурия просто будет работать, боксировать, не будет пытаться его переводить, так как у него намного лучше бокс, чем у Оливейры. А у Оливейры, мне кажется, недостаточно вольной борьбы, чтобы перевести Топурия.
Arman Tsarukyan also shared that he's ready to step in as a backup for either Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira or Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. Speaking after a grappling match in Moscow, Tsarukyan explained that a recent injury was misunderstood, but he's focused on moving forward. He said he's willing to take any opportunity and will do whatever the UFC asks to get back on track.
Интересно, будешь ли страховать бой за пояс в легком весе?
Страховать не знаю, но однозначно, если они предложат, я буду.
Даже на суперкоротком?
Да, я буду готов. То есть я сейчас вылетаю в Америку и буду там находиться, если что-то травмируется, если UFC мне скажет, что ты готов, я скажу да.
А если Парье Холлоу, если предложат также?
Однозначно, да. То есть сейчас мне нужно рисковать, так как я получил травму, и эту травму неправильно обрисовали, то есть не вышел, доктор не сказал, что и как произошло, и люди, некоторые думают, что я там просто соскочил с этого боя и так далее. И сейчас просто нужно вернуться в строй, и что UFC скажет, то и будем делать.
John Anik is also excited to see how Ilia Topuria performs against a legend like Charles Oliveira. He reminded fans not to forget how dangerous and experienced Oliveira is. With Topuria stepping up in weight and fighting during International Fight Week, the stakes are high. Anik believes this is a true test to see if Topuria is ready for greatness.
Can Topuria do it again and knock out another legend?
Dude, is Ilia Topuria getting the red corner? I mean, my goodness. Can we put some respect on the name Charles Oliveira? No, it's a fascinating fight. Yes, Justin Gaethje, who's the hardest man he's ever been hit by in all of his fights, and it's Charles Oliveira. And I'm just excited to see what Charles can do because the betting line suggests that he's up against it. A lot of Charles's contemporaries are suggestive that this is a custom-made matchup for Ilia Topuria. He's taken on the most decorated finisher in UFC history and the man who reigns supreme atop this weight class. So fascinated to see it. And I think my biggest takeaway with Topuria is just the way guys like Kenny Florian talk about him in such superlative terms. And, we'll see if he can live up to the hype. I'm excited to see him in a division, not cut too much weight. And, great way to sort of usher him in, headlining International Fight Week for the soon-to-be vacant UFC lightweight title.
On the other hand, Max Holloway, who is set to fight Dustin Poirier in his retirement fight, wants to compete for the lightweight belt. He said that if he gets a big win over Dustin Poirier, he'd like to face the winner of Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. He pointed out that he has a history with both fighters and hinted that a strong performance could earn him a title shot by the end of the year.
I have an opportunity to be his retirement fight, and I know he's trying to ride into the sunset. He can go and do that, but it might be a little sad because I want to go out there and get my hand raised. You know, the message that I'm trying to send is that I'm still here. You know, I know this is Dustin's retirement fight, but his last fight was for a title. I still have title contentions in my mind, you know, and a couple weeks before us, there's a title fight at 155, and I got history of both men. So I go out there, I do my thing, I make a statement, I get a statement win. Who's to say your boy not fighting for 155 undisputed title at the end of the year? So first things first is Dustin Poirier. I am not looking over it.
However, Ali Abdelaziz claimed that if Justin Gaethje doesn't get a title shot next, he may retire from the sport. He emphasized that Gaethje has won 3 of his last 4 fights and stepped in to save the UFC on short notice multiple times. According to Ali, Gaethje feels disrespected and unloved by the promotion, despite his loyalty and contributions. He added that Gaethje told him directly he would hang up his gloves if he passed over again, and that moment left him emotional. Ali hopes the UFC gives Gaethje the title opportunity he deserves, but said it depends on the outcome of the Topuria versus Oliveira fight.
Who do you think could be next for Justin Gaethje?
Justin Gaethje fight the winner. He won 3 of his last 4. He saved the UFC 2 times. They needed him, and he's there. The guy did so much for the sport. And if anyone said he doesn't deserve it, and he said, I'm not gonna fight for the title, I'm just gonna hang up my gloves.
Really? So if he doesn't get a title shot, that could be it? We might not see Justin Gaethje again?
Yeah, Jean is a very principled guy, and I never feel strong about this, and he really told me this yesterday. I was him at the fight. He said, I'm not going to get a title shot. I feel disrespected. I love being a UFC fighter. I love the UFC, but I feel the UFC have to love me back, and he doesn't feel the love right now. But, you know, listen, at the end of the day, I think this guy, they love him. I think they will give him what he wanted. But at the end of the day, like, we have to see what happened first between Charles and Ilia.
Well, there is no clarity about Justin Gaethje's future yet, but things are looking great for the upcoming fight card of UFC 317. Former UFC champion Michael Bisping expressed his thoughts about this matchup and shared he is backing Ilia Topuria to beat Charles Oliveira on June 28th. He highlighted Topuria's knockout power, solid wrestling, and noticeable physical growth as major strengths. According to Bisping, Topuria looks bigger and stronger, which could help him stuff takedowns, land powerful shots, and keep a strong pace. He believes Topuria is becoming a well-rounded and dangerous fighter.
I am leaning towards Ilia Topuria. I think the power in the hands is significant. Of course, he has the wrestling to probably be able to stop the takedowns, but more importantly, he's coming up to 155. I say this all the time. Everybody should move up a weight class and stop cutting so much weight. Remember, Charles Oliveira used to fight at 145, came up to 55, reinvented himself, became one of the most exciting fighters, and of course was a champion. So it's not like Charles Oliveira is going to have some massive size advantage. Ilia Topuria, in the footage that we've seen online, he looks big, he looks bulked up, he's going to be able to hit harder, he'll take a better shot, the cardio is going to be better, and just all round, he will be a much more improved athlete. Everybody should move up a weight class. I've said this a million times. I won't go on about it. However, as I say, I'm leaning towards Ilia, but anything can happen in a mixed martial arts fight.
Michael Bisping praised Ilia Topuria for his dominant performances and sharp finishing ability, saying he's been impressive throughout his career. He highlighted Topuria's confidence and noted that he rarely finds himself in danger during fights. Bisping believes a win over Charles Oliveira, who he expects Topuria to be favored against, would mark another big step in his rise. He also made it clear that his comments weren't meant as disrespect toward Oliveira.
Ilia Topuria, given everything that he's done in the sport, the confidence that he's shown, the manifestation, as the kids say, but bringing it all to a reality, knocking out everyone in his way, doing it in absolute style, hardly breaking a sweat, not having to fight through any adversity, not being the hammer and the nail. He's just been the hammer, just hammering his way through everyone. If he beats Charles Oliveira, which I would assume that he's going to be the favourite to do, and that's with absolutely no disrespect towards Charles Oliveira at all.
Sean O'Malley also shared that his heart leans toward Charles Oliveira, but his mind tells him Ilia Topuria might get the win. He described the matchup as a coin flip, acknowledging Oliveira's recent run of great performances. However, he also pointed out that Charles tends to get hit, and Topuria hits hard. Overall, O'Malley said he's very excited for the fight.
Could I get your read on how Topuria versus Oliveira plays out?
Man, that's one where your heart's telling you, you know, Charles, and your brain's telling you Ilia. It's just that one's a coin flip. Can't count Charles out. Ilia's on an absolute tear. You know, Charles does get hit, and Ilia cracks. That fight I am very excited for.
Sean O'Malley called Ilia Topuria the #1 pound-for-pound fighter alongside Islam Makhachev. He said both are tied at the top in his opinion. O'Malley shared that he wanted to see a fight between Topuria and Makhachev, calling it the matchup to make. As for Topuria versus Oliveira, he said his heart leans toward Charles, but his brain picks Ilia, especially after Topuria's knockout wins over Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski.
Who do you have in Topuria versus Oliveira?
I wanted to see Topuria versus Islam.
I know.
Those were the
we all did.
Those are the two #1 pound-for-pound guys in the world. In my opinion, Topuria, Islam, both tied at #1. Obviously, John Jones up there too, but that was the fight to make. But they both wanted to move up. So Ilia versus Charles. Heart says Charles. My brain says Ilia. But you can't count either of those guys out, especially Ilia coming off those two crazy knockouts over Max and Alexander.
Michael Chandler also shared his thoughts on the Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira fight, saying he plans to be cage side for the action. He admitted that Oliveira is a tough, well-rounded fighter who's hard to bet against. However, Chandler also highlighted Topuria's explosive power and sharp striking, calling the matchup exciting and hard to predict.
So I'll be cage side for that fight to watch it, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, who do you think is going to win?
Man, it's tough. You don't bet against freaking Charles Oliveira because he's so dang good everywhere, and he's a really hard guy to beat. With that being said, Ilia Topuria's got some crazy power in his hands and crazy accurate strikes. So it'll be very interesting to see how that fight goes.
Henry Cejudo feels Charles Oliveira will need to make more adjustments than Ilia Topuria in their upcoming fight. He pointed out that Oliveira has been dropped by fighters like Chandler, Gaethje, and Makhachev, and warned that Topuria's knockout power could be a big problem. Cejudo believes if Oliveira doesn't adapt, Topuria has a strong chance of becoming a two-division champion.
One thing, the person that needs to make adjustments in this fight, typically you would say the lighter fighter, the smaller fighter going up, but not really. Charles Oliveira has been dropped by just about everybody that he's fought, from Chandler to Gaethje to Islam. I mean, what happens when you go up against a dude that's knocking people out, not TKOing people, knocking people out cold like Ilia Topuria? So when I'm looking at this fight, I'm saying Charles Oliveira is the guy that has to make those adjustments. If not, it's going to be the double champ. It's going to be Ilia Topuria securing himself as a two-division world champion.
However, Charles Oliveira responded to the doubters ahead of his fight with Ilia Topuria by saying he doesn't pay much attention to outside opinions. He expressed confidence in his striking power, saying he believes in the fire in his hands. Oliveira added that everything will be settled on June 28th when they meet in the cage.
A lot of your fans are doubting you. They're very scared. They're saying Ilia's gonna knock you out. All these things. Do you have anything to say to your fans that are, scared about this fight?
Eu não fico olhando muito os comentários, Vitória que fica olhando as coisas, fica olhando um monte de coisa, falando, gosta de falar as coisas.
So he doesn't read the comments too much, he does more.
Eu não ligo muito pro que as pessoas falam ali, na realidade essa é real, né? Eu sei que ele é um cara que ele pega duro, mas tá falando da categoria de pesos leve, categoria mais difícil. Eu lutei contra o Destigate e todo mundo falava que ele era o cara que batia mais duro, e quando eu bati ele dobrou, então eu acredito no poder de fogo na mão que eu tenho, então vamos esperar, dia 28 a gente vai se encontrar.
Charles Oliveira acknowledged that Ilia Topuria is a tough opponent, but pointed out that he's moving up from a lower weight class. Oliveira said Topuria needs to respect the power and level of the lightweight division, adding that he believes he hits harder than Ilia and plans to show that in the fight.
I've never seen Justin Gaethje went flying like that, bro. He dropped him and he went flying. The way he talks about his power, Gaethje, he said it was like an electric battery or something. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Uma pilha de carro, uma bateria de carro.
Isso é bom porque, tipo, ele era o cara mais temido da categoria, o cara que falava que todo mundo batia mais duro, e você escutar isso do cara que falou isso, então isso é importante, isso aí mostra quanto que a gente é gigante, quanto que a gente tem poder de fogo realmente na mão.
It's important when you hear that from the hardest hitting dude in the division. Literally. That's proof of how hard he hits, you know? É importante, considerando com quem você vai lutar no próximo.
Sim, com
Falam
certeza.
muito do poder da mão dele, mas a sua também.
É um cara duro, como eu falei, tá vindo da categoria de baixo, então tem que respeitar os pesos leves.
He's coming for the featherweights, you need to respect these lightweights.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, you're probably one of the hardest hitting light. Do you think you hit harder than Ilia?
Com certeza.
For sure.
Yeah.
Furthermore, Sean O'Malley's coach Tim Welch shared his thoughts on the potential fight between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. He described it as a dangerous and possibly stupid move for Topuria. Welch pointed out the contrast in styles: Oliveira's aggressive pressure, wild knees, and upright stance versus Topuria's low boxing approach. He believes these differences make the matchup risky and unpredictable for Topuria.
That's a dangerous fight. Merab calls it stupid to make Ilia Topuria fight Charles Oliveira before Islam Makhachev.
How was that?
Ilia Topuria says he got promised that he would fight for the title if he vacates.
By who? The security guard outside his room?
Yeah, he kind of hinted that he got promised that. I feel like Charles, Ilia...
That'd be fucking fire.
Ilia might batter him. The way Charles comes forward with those reckless knees,
and he's got the chin floating up high too.
Stands up tall like a really tall Muay Thai guy, and Ilia's like a low boxer. That's a dangerous fight for Charles.
So that's all we have from today's video, and hopefully you liked it. UFC 317 is shaping up to be a war, and we'll soon find out if Charles Oliveira can stop the rise of Ilia Topuria. So make sure to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to get the latest updates about this fight.